you give most people the choice to rent out a Lamborghini or Toyota Camry, they're gonna pick the Lamborghini in 2 seconds. And that is why most people get absolutely smoked in this business, because they're picking based on ego, not just economics. And here's the part that most people understand. It's not just about exotic versus normal rentals. So in this video, I'm gonna show you the exact difference between an exotic car rental business and an economy car rental business. How much money each one can make, how risky each one is, what customers are really like, and which model I'd recommend to you if you were to start from scratch today. First, let's get into the difference between startup cost. When it comes to generally normal cars, you're looking from anywhere between $8,000 to $25,000 per economy vehicle. So if you want to make real money with economy cars, you're going to need multiple of them. You're going to be in $40,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 until you start seeing real returns. Now let's talk about exotics. If you buy one exotic car, you're easily in $50,000 plus on your down payment and other expenses, and that's just for one car. But if you run exotic cars on consignment, which is basically a property manager for vehicles, now you're in control of a $200,000 to $300,000 asset with not much money upfront, if any at all. So right away, same business, completely different entry point, depending on how you structure it. Now, let's talk about profit when it comes to each business model. When it comes to economy cars, you're charging anywhere from $40 to $70 a day. So with 20 to 25 book days per car, you're looking at about $800 to $1,500 per month per car in gross revenue. Net, after payment, insurance, maintenance, let's call it $400 to $900 a month in net profit per car per month. Now with exotic cars, you could be doing anywhere from $800 to $1,500 per day. But maybe the car only rents 6 to 12 days a month. If you're lucky, maybe more. Now that's about $5,000 to $12,000 in revenue based on that utilization rate. Now, if you're doing it on consignment, which is the property management style of acquiring vehicles, you basically split that. So net on those cars, you're doing about $2,000 to $5,000 per car with or without owning it. So yes, exotics absolutely make more per car, but it's a lot less consistent. Now I want to talk about the workload when it comes to the 2 different types of cars that you're renting. When it comes to normal cars, the workload is a lot more significant. There's a lot more turnover. That means more car washes. You have to do maintenance runs a lot more frequently. Overall, you're putting in a lot more work to get less revenue essentially. When it comes to exotics, it's a lot less work and a lot more income per rental. But with exotics, of course, there's fewer rentals as well. So you're making more per deal with less day-to-day volume. When it comes to normal cars, the utilization rate, meaning the amount that the car actually goes out per month. So if you have 30 days in a month and it goes out 30 days, you have a 100% utilization rate, right? When it comes to normal cars, you're talking anywhere from 60 to 85% utilization rate on average. When it comes to exotic cars, you're doing maybe 20 to 40% utilization rate. Now, if you're in a hot market and you really know what you're doing, obviously that can be a lot higher as well. But exotic cars don't need to rent 20 days of the month to financially make sense. Now let's talk about the risk factor when it comes to each car. When it comes to normal cars, this is where normal cars win because the risk factor is so much lower. Obviously, they are lower cost cars. There's a lot less exposure to damage, and the path to recovery is a lot easier when it comes to normal cars if something does go wrong mechanically or cosmetically. But when it comes to consignment, whether you're doing economy or exotic rentals, the game completely changes because it's not going to be your own capital that's tied up, and you're not taking the full exposure on a $200,000 car or a $20,000 car, whatever, or anything in between. Now let's talk about the maintenance and the downtime. The maintenance and downtime on a normal car is obviously going to be a lot cheaper, and the downtime is going to be a lot less, right? So you can bring a car in, it's gonna be pretty easy to fix. You're not gonna have to wait on parts forever. Typically, when it comes to exotic cars, the maintenance can be very expensive, and you could be waiting a long time for specialty parts. You could have a very simple part within an exotic car that can take 6 or 7 months to arrive. That is one of the biggest downfalls with exotic cars, and one of the biggest pros when it comes to economy cars is you can get things in and out quickly. Obviously, you have to take these into consideration whether you own or consign these vehicles, but nonetheless, downtime is bad for any business, especially with assets that generate revenue. Now, when we talk about insurance, insurance is one of the most misunderstood parts of this whole business. When it comes to economy cars, insuring them in general, whether you own them or you're managing them, is a lot simpler. Exotics, it becomes a lot harder. There's a lot more nuances. So it can be a lot harder, not only to get insurance, get the proper coverage, but to find qualified clients, because a lot of the times insurance comes down to the qualification of your clients. So in general, again, whether you own them or not, exotic cars are just much more complicated when it comes to insurance, and it can create a lot of friction in your booking process, and it can cause you to essentially lose customers that are ready to pay, but they don't meet the qualifications when it comes to insurance. So if you don't understand how this is structured, it's going to catch up to you. Now, when it comes to customers, normal cars are very simple customers and very simple use cases. They are everyday renters. And again, with all the other factors involved, it just makes your customer base a lot easier to manage and a lot more predictable. You kind of get everyone across the board when it comes to economy vehicles. You can get people that are in between cars, people that have cars in the shop. You can get business travelers, families that travel. You can have people that are on the more poor side. You can have people that are on the wealthy side. So you get a wide range of clients, and you're really not limited to one type of client when it comes to normal cars. Now, when it comes to exotic cars, you're either dealing with really wealthy people, or you're dealing with people that are stretching their finances just to make this exotic rental work, whether it's an experience, once in a lifetime, it's a wedding, something like that. It doesn't matter. Sometimes people are stretching their last pennies, which can create a lot of friction if something actually happens, whether they return the car late or there's an accident, things like that. It can become difficult to manage those kinds of clients. So you get higher value transactions, but more variability when it comes to exotic rentals in general. Now, when it comes to marketing, this is where exotics win. It's a lot easier to market exotic cars. First off, because it's likely that you have a lot less competition in your area, and the cars market themselves, whether that's in person or on social media, it does not matter. Exotic cars win every time. If you cannot market exotic cars, that is your fault. They literally market themselves. When it comes to normal cars, it can be a lot harder to market. You're going to have a lot of competition, not only from other private rental car companies and Turo, you're going to have competition from the big boys, Hertz, Avis, Budget, all of those companies, you're competing with them, and they are not as attractive to market. So the car itself has really no great marketing feature, right? It's more about the business, your service, your pricing, and things like that. It can just make it a lot harder to market economy vehicles if you don't know how to market. So all in all, attention turns into bookings, and bookings turn into money in your own pocket. Now, when it comes to scaling, it's obviously a lot easier to scale normal cars. Normal cars scale like a system. You add more cars, and it's the same process, if you have the demand, of course. For exotics, the demand changes a lot. You can have demand for 10 Camrys and have the same demand for 15 Camrys in your area, right? When it comes to a Lamborghini, just because you had demand for 1 or 2 Lamborghinis doesn't mean you have demand for 5 or 10 Lamborghinis. So that in itself becomes a lot tricky. Also, when it comes to buying exotic cars, you're putting a lot of capital at risk. So if you're buying exotic cars, you're stacking risk quite a bit. But on consignment, it's very feasible, and you're not stacking a lot of risk for yourself. But obviously you want to make sure that you are picking the right cars for your market, because if you get a bad reputation with investors, that every investor or person that gives you cars to manage comes on board and they are not renting, you're not going to last long in this business. So here's kind of the final take on when it comes to renting normal cars versus exotic cars. Normal cars are lower risk, more consistent, and a lot easier to manage. Exotics have a higher upside, but they are a lot less consistent, and the exposure is tenfold. And then structure within that matters as well. When it comes to ownership, you can make a lot more money, but you're also on the hook for a lot more things. Consignment makes less per deal, but you're a lot more protected, and it allows you to scale a lot faster. Now, if I was starting from ground zero, I would start with something that's a lot more predictable, a lot lower capital, something simple, something consistent, but I would not stay there. Because once you understand and learn the business, and you know all the nuances, you know your risk, and you know how to handle certain situations, putting exotics, especially on consignment, is where the real upside is in this business, and you can make a lot of money really fast. So if I had to answer the real question, which one would I start with? It really depends on 2 things. It depends on your access to capital, and it depends on your skill level and knowledge of the business. If you're starting with limited funds and you don't have a full understanding of how the industry and the business actually works, I would just start with economy cars. It's lower risk, easier to manage, and a lot more forgiving if you make mistakes. But the common mistakes that people tend to make is that they stay in this position much too long. But once you actually understand the business and the industry, once you know how to manage renters, protect yourself properly, how to structure deals, I would move into exotics, especially on consignment, as fast as possible. Because now you're not tying up $50,000 to $100,000 in one car, but you're still participating in $5,000 to $10,000 per month per vehicle. And that is where the business really starts to scale. So for me, I wouldn't start by buying exotics, but I also wouldn't spend years on economy cars. I would use normal cars as a stepping stone to get to the exotic level. So if you've been trying to decide between an exotic car rental business and a normal car rental business, here's the simplest way to think about it. Exotic is the sexier model. Normal is the sturdier model. Exotics can win on image, high ticket bookings, and content. Normal usually wins on consistency, accessibility, and beginner friendliness. So the real question isn't which one is cooler, it's actually which one fits your money, your market, and your skill set. Because if you get that part wrong, this business is going to humble you very, very fast. If you got value from this, comment below which business model you would start with, exotic versus normal. And if you want more videos on how to start or scale your existing car rental company, check out the playlist that's on the screen right now. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video.